Hey, welcome back to the Butch Yoga podcast. I'm Joelle, your host here. And it turns out that I wasn't only your host, but recently I was a host to some other critters. And that is why we took a break because I had parasites. Yikes, gross. It was bad. It was very unpleasant and nasty, and I much prefer being a host for you than for whatever was going on inside of me before. So I'm very happy to be back. I I wanted to record last week, but I was just not feeling up to it, and I'm feeling so much better now. Now I'm feeling basically back to my usual self, and it feels so good to be feeling better. And yeah, I really missed recording the podcast with you last week. Like I really thought about doing it anyway, but I sounded just kind of sad. It was and so I was like, no, don't force it. Like, don't force it. So much of what I want to share with you is about listening to your body. Like, it really, so much of it comes right back to that, to listening to your body. And I was thinking, okay, Joelle, you got to do that too. You can't just tell everyone else to listen to their body and then try to push your body past what it's telling you that it wants to do. So, taking my own advice there. Sometimes I try to do that because it is so important to let yourself rest when you feel like that's what you need, so that you can recover and get feeling better. So yeah, that's why we didn't have the podcast for like 2 weeks there, but now we're back, going to see about being a little more regular with the schedule, but life happens. And I'll admit to you that one of my fears in starting this podcast was that I wouldn't be regular with it, that I wouldn't be consistent with it. And it's kind of nice that already from the beginning, I haven't been consistent with it. So it's like, oh, look, I already had to confront my fears about that and see that it's not the end of the world. Like we can still have the podcast, like, oops, I wasn't here for 2 weeks. And now I'm back. Like that might happen sometimes, but I want to keep coming back. That's the thing. And it's like that with so many things that we want to do. Like, this is the Butch Yoga podcast, so let's talk about yoga for a second. I know that it has happened to me so many times with my yoga practice that I've said, okay, I'm going to practice every day. And then what happens? I'll tell you what happens is usually do not hit every single day that something happens, skip a day for whatever reason. There's so many reasons why we can like skip doing the things that we say we want to do, like like having a yoga practice. Like some of the reasons are, for one, you just forget. You just forget sometimes. Like you get so caught up in whatever your usual habits are from before that you forget about the new thing that you're trying to do. And that's so normal. It's so normal. It happens. It's just like part of the process. Or you just feel like you don't want to. You're like, I don't really want to. That happens too. Or maybe you feel like lower energy, like you're not up to it. That's okay too, to give yourself the space to rest and to come back to it. That's the thing, is not letting a little like hiccup along the way stop you from coming back to it. That's the trick. That's what I've learned. That's one thing that I've really learned with Butch Yoga, is that it's not about like being perfectly consistent. It's about just getting yourself to come back at some point. Just coming back to it again. Okay. So, this is a little intro pep talk for us there. And now we're going to start getting into today's episode, which I am very excited about to be talking about this topic with you, because it's one of my favorite ideas that we're going to be talking about today. And like, this is only the third episode, so we haven't gotten to talk about too much yet. And the first two episodes were really a lot more like intro kind of stuff that seemed important to do, as we're starting out, like to be like, hey, this is what's going on here and what you can expect and what this is about. So, yeah, so today we are going to get more into talking about an idea that I really love, that has changed the way that I think about the world and like relate to the world. And so I want to share that with you too. Um, all right. Okay. So we're talking about this idea, and it's in a word. Ideas, so much of how we like communicate them, experience them, is through words. I mean, gosh, this is a podcast. I am talking to you. I'm using words. And that's how we're sharing ideas. And we've talked about words a little bit already. Like in the first episode, we talked about words and how you can't find like the perfect word to describe pretty much anything. Pretty much anything that you can't find the perfect word for yourself, or for like God, whatever might be going on with God. I don't know, but like good luck finding a word for that. And yeah, so it's like words, they can't fully describe anything, but they can act as like windows, as ways that we can see a new idea. Oh gosh, it just reminded me of a quote by a philosopher called Wittgenstein. And he said, uttering a word is like striking a note on the keyboard of the imagination. It's one of my favorite quotes. I didn't actually have that in my notes. I just like have that like memorized because I like love that quote. And I want to talk about it for a second. That like, okay, let's like break down that quote. Okay. Uttering a word is like striking a note on the keyboard of the imagination. What does that mean? So it means like when you say a word, it like activates something in your mind. And some words, if it's like a new word to you or a certain idea, it can activate your mind, your imagination in a certain special way. And that's what I hope this word that we're going to talk about today does for you. All right, so we're already 10 minutes in. Am I going to say the word? Yes. Okay, here's the word for today. Oh my gosh, wait, before I say the word, hang on. That just reminds me of Pee-wee's Playhouse. Do y'all remember Pee-wee Herman and Pee-wee's Playhouse? Um, that's that was like my favorite show when I was a little kid. Pee-wee is definitely like a gay root for me. I've like been very inspired in my life by Pee Wee Herman, and that was like a little section on his show that there would be like the word of the day, and if you like said the word, then everyone would like scream like ah, you said the word. So okay, so today's word, the word of the day for today is Wabi Sabi. Wabi Sabi. But this isn't Pee Wee's Playhouse, so I'm not gonna like scream after saying it. But yeah, Wabi Sabi. Okay. That is not an English word. It is a Japanese word. And it's an idea in Zen Buddhism that is it contains so much. This word has so much in it that we are going to be talking about it for a while now. Okay, so wabi sabi. What does that mean? Maybe maybe you've heard this word before, maybe not. If you've heard it before, that's cool. We're gonna go like really deep into it today. Okay, so wabi sabi. The way that like I define it is that wabi sabi describes the beauty of the completely unique way that things are temporary. So wabi sabi is the beauty of the completely unique way that things are temporary. Okay. And everything's temporary. Everything. Everything's temporary. And because of that, anything in a given moment is like having its own unique way of being. Let's think about that for a second. What does that mean? I'll talk about it more, but I just want you to like reflect on like what that means to you. Like a lot of like what's associated with wabi sabi is kind of like natural formations, like the way that things grow naturally into their own shape, as opposed to like something that's like made by humans, like in a factory or something that like is all like the same and like perfectly straight and stuff. No, wabi sabi has like a little bit of like natural bendiness to it. So okay, let's talk about it more. And aside from what I have to say about it, let's actually hear from some Japanese people who have more cultural insight into this concept than I do. Okay, so first we're going to hear from Kazuo Okakura, who is the author of The Book of Tea. And he talks about like the different parts of this word because there's two parts. There's wabi and there's sabi. And first we're going to talk about wabi. Okay, so wabi means imperfect or incomplete, but with a potential for improvement. So, okay, it's something that's like, it's not perfect, it's not complete, but it has this potential there. And a thing about Wabi is that even though you can see the potential for what can be, for whatever this thing can grow into, there's also an acceptance for whatever the perceived imperfection or incompleteness is, because there's an openness to what can be, to what's going to happen over time. So, okay, just to like recap that real quick. So Wabi is like things being imperfect because they're still growing into their fullness. They're still growing into what they can be, like in their full potential. But it's like recognizing that that's also perfect. Even though it doesn't seem perfect, it's like this understanding that like what seems not perfect is, it's just like going through its process of growth. So an example of that would be like a fruit that isn't ripe yet. You know, like you could be out like picking apples or something and you see one that's not ripe. You don't think, "Oh, that apple sucks. Fuck that apple. That apple just isn't ripe yet. It's like, what's even the point?" No. No, that's not what you think. You I mean, maybe that's what you think. I don't know what you think. But, you know, like, it wouldn't really be fair to, like, put that on the apple, that it's like, you know, you suck, apple. You're not even ripe yet. It's like, no, it just needs some more time to get ripe. There's nothing wrong with the apple. The apple not being ripe yet doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the apple. It's just going through its process. Like the apple that's not ripe yet is still, it's still like perfect in its own way. It's just not ripe yet. So it's like that with lots of things. I'm going to give some more examples here of like the perceived imperfection. And I say perceived imperfection because it's like we see it from our perspective as not being perfect. But like really actually it is perfect, but we just see it as like, oh, it's not perfect. Oh, it should be different from how it is. So okay, we got the fruit example. Another one. Let's stick with the plants. I love plant examples. I think they just work so beautifully for so many things. And so another plant example, a flower that's, you know, hasn't bloomed yet. It's just got like its little bud. And you don't think when you see that bud, like, why aren't you a flower yet? You should be a flower now. You like what? You're just gonna be a bud? Is that all? Like, no, no, that's not that's not what you say to the little bud. You just wait a couple days, and then it becomes a flower. And like you know that within that bud that there's the potential for the flower. And you recognize how how perfect it is in that. So, okay, aside from the plants, because those are kind of more neutral, those are a little, I think, easier to be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, sure. Well, okay, aside from a fruit or a flower, you can think of a baby, a human baby who is learning to walk. When that baby is learning to walk, it's going to be like stumbling, it's going to be falling down. It's not like, just walking like an adult would walk, like a I guess I don't need to keep saying human. I wanted to say like a human adult would walk. You know that I'm talking about humans, right? So okay, the baby who's just starting to learn to walk, maybe that's like a toddler at that point. I don't know all the baby words. But yeah, okay. Tiny human learning to walk doesn't walk as confidently as an adult human. I keep saying human. It's like fun. It makes me feel like I'm not a human or something. But anyway, uh, I missed recording this podcast. It's fun. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Gotta bring myself back to the point. Okay. We're talking about this baby, toddler, whatever, learning to walk. It kind of sucks at walking, basically. It's like falling. It's when it takes a little step, it's like kind of wobbly. But the caretakers of this child, when they see it walking or attempting to walk, if they are, loving loving people, when they see this baby trying to walk, they don't think, "Oh God, our baby really sucks at walking. This kid just is not getting it." They are just they keep falling down. They're a little wobbly. It's like, no, it's like a baby, they see those steps and they see the potential in those steps. Like they see those little wobbly steps and they know that that's not it. That's not like, the baby's final form as a walker, like the baby will continue to learn to walk more confidently with time, like that's just part of what will happen, like how the fruit will get ripe or the flower will bloom, like the baby will also learn to walk more confidently. And so those are all like a little bit removed from us. We have made it past being babies. I was about to say, unless you're a baby who's listening to this, then, hang in there, you'll get it. But you shouldn't be a baby listening to this. There's some explicit language in this, but that's okay. Anyway, um, I'm just gonna assume we're not babies here, so I'm gonna keep going from there. So aside from the baby example, let's bring it to us. Again, this is Butch Yoga, so let's talk about yoga. One way that I know I can experience this sense of wabi, of this idea of like imperfection, of this sense of like not being complete, but seeing that there's like the potential for improvement is in my yoga practice. I Like, okay, let's go to this morning. So for the past couple of weeks, I have not really been doing so much like physical yoga. I've just been letting my body rest more and not really doing like my physical practices. And now that I've started getting back to them, I can notice that my flexibility is not how it usually is. It's I can't stretch as far as I usually can. And part of my practice with that is not thinking that I should be stretching further than I am right now. Like, okay, maybe before in the past I could like stretch further, but right now I can't. And accepting that that's where I am in this moment and that there's a certain perfection in that. And that knowing with more practice, I will be able to stretch further again, but like the fruit that's not ripe, it's like, okay, well, I can't make myself stretch further now. That would like mess up my body. That would be like trying to eat the apple that's not ripe and it would be like gross, you know? It's like not not forcing things to be further along than they are. Like, even, okay, another example that I thought of is which I think this can happen a lot. I know it's happened for me before. You might be able to relate to it. Is wanting for a relationship to be further along than it is. Like maybe you meet someone and you really like them and you like want things to be further along than they are. But that's just not how it is, you know? Like you have to like build that up over time, build up a sense of trust with each other, of familiarity, of just getting to know each other. That takes time. That takes time and by trying to act like things are further along than they actually are, it's like taking a bite of that apple that's not ripe yet. Like it's gonna be gross. It's not gonna be good. It's gonna mess things up, you know. Or like trying to make the baby walk without any kind of support around, you know. It's like the baby's gonna fall. Or trying to push yourself further than you can comfortably stretch, like you will hurt yourself. So it's there's a real practicality in relating to this wabi idea of this sense of things not being complete, but recognizing that the potential is there and accepting that accepting that as being perfect for where this moment is, for letting that show you like what what is the next step, what what should you be doing next. Maybe it's just waiting, like with the fruit or the flower. You can't do anything, you just have to wait. Or with the yoga example, that's not exactly like the fruit or the flower because it is something that you do, but it's like that still needs time, but it's like you continuing to show up over time and practicing awareness of where you are each day. Where does it feel right to stretch to? Like maybe After a couple days, you notice yourself feeling more flexible and that you can stretch a little further. So it's bringing that awareness also of what's happening. What are the conditions? Are you feeling like you're ready to go further? Or in the relationship, like that's with the yoga example, that's more personal, with the like relationship. That's about checking in with the signals that you're getting, communicating about where you're at, listening to where the other person's at, so you can get a sense of how to proceed, what makes sense, tuning in, being aware, and not just putting your ideas of where you think things should be, but really practicing this awareness of what's going on in the external conditions that can like let you know how ready things are for whatever the next move is. Okay, so that's wabi. That's just the first part of that word. That's wabi. So wabi, just to recap, wabi is this sense of imperfection or incompleteness that has a potential for improvement or growth. And I want to emphasize again, it's perceived imperfection or incompleteness. It's not actually imperfect. It's not actually incomplete. It's just that it seems that way to us versus what we might want, but really like that everything's just in its process. Okay, so that's wabi. Now we're going to move on to sabi. Balance it out. So sabi comes from the Japanese verb sabiru, which means to deteriorate over time. So wabi has this kind of like growth aspect, and sabi has this kind of like deterioration aspect. And I love how this word brings both of those together. Wabi Sabi. It's like so powerful. Okay, but focusing on sabi now. So sabi, like wabi's like the like growth. Sabi is like the decay, the deterioration. But it's not that that's a bad thing. It doesn't mean that to deteriorate is bad. Usually we think of that as bad, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. Like with the flower example, let's stick with that one. So that flower, it was like a bud. Then with time, it blooms. Wow, it's so pretty. Don't you just love to see a flower in full bloom? It is just so beautiful. So, I mean, that's like one of our examples of like what beauty is, like to think of like flowers. I love flowers. And yeah, usually when we think of the beauty of flowers, we think of them in full bloom. But then what happens in a couple days? Or like however long? What happens eventually? They start to wilt. The flowers don't stay in full bloom forever. They start to wilt. And maybe petals drop off. They're like kind of droopy, and we don't usually think that looks as pretty as the flowers in full bloom. usually, unless you've got like a like Morticia Adams thing going on and you like that. Which I mean, that's kind of what we're getting to here, is that the deterioration over time, it doesn't need to be a bad thing. We don't need to see that as being wrong or like being ugly. It can be like thinking of like this Sabi aspect of deterioration. There can be so much love in that feeling. So much love. Like one example that I love to use is if you have a favorite book that you've had for years, it might be pretty beat up, your copy of it. You know, maybe you've got some notes written in it, it's highlighted, maybe like the cover's falling off, the edges are worn, but you wouldn't trade that book for a brand new one. You love your like beat up copy. And I'm using this example, I'm like actually referring to one of my own books that's my favorite book here, my copy of the Tao Te Ching. Anybody watching the video, I'm holding it up, and you can see this book is beat up. The cover is taped on because it fell off. It's all rough, and yeah, the edges are all rounded from being shoved in different pockets, and it's a very beat up little book. But I wouldn't trade it for a brand new copy. That, even though maybe that could seem like that would be better to have a new copy instead of this like very beat up copy, but there's so much love in it of me being there throughout the process of the deterioration, of having this connection to it, of having been with it through so much time, and seeing that it's like, even though maybe this seems imperfect compared to like a brand new copy of the book, that to me, this is so much more perfect than the new one. You know, like to me, it's perfect how it is. It's not that like, no, only a new one is perfect. It's like, no, this one is perfect how it is. And I wonder if you have something like that you could think of that's like so beat up and just like worn and like well loved that it is just looking rough, but you would never want to trade that thing for a new one. Like maybe it's like, an example I'm thinking of is like stuffed animal. Maybe you have a stuffed animal that you've had for a really long time, and it looks like it, that it looks like it's been through some shit. And you just love it for being how it is. And you wouldn't want a brand new one. Like the brand new one wouldn't have the same value to you because it hasn't had that like completely unique way of being with you through time. And another example that I want to share that might feel a little more personal for you is the way that we age as humans. it's easy to talk about like a book or a stuffed animal or something and how we can think that that's perfect how it is. But oh my God, in our fucking society, there's so much emphasis on youth as like the pinnacle of beauty, as what people are so often striving for, in fucking capitalism, in marketing, that so much of it is about making people feel inadequate for just like existing, for like not being like 19 years old and having a body that reflects that. But I want to like challenge that and I think as queers we're pretty good about this in general, that we can value like the beauty of seeing aging, of seeing like an elder and appreciating like the beauty of like the lines on their face, the little like wrinkles around their eyes, the gray hairs. You can't see mine too much in the video, but I've got some coming in, and I used to fight it more. I used to like pluck them out just cuz, but hit a certain point, it's too many. Can't fight them back anymore. They're just there, and like something shifted in me also of appreciating that it's not even like, oh, whatever, I can't keep up with it, but also that there's something so magical about living to the point where you can get gray hairs. That it's like, to me, there's like this sense of like, hey, you made it this far. You made it this far, and that's beautiful. Like, that's so powerful to think about how many of us don't make it to ever get gray hairs. And to appreciate how much beauty there is in those. All of what that means, like all of what you've survived to get to the point to have some gray hairs and to be getting some wrinkles, to see those as like something to be proud of, something to value so deeply, something to see as so meaningful, so beautiful, so beautiful, like, and not in the way that, like fashion models are beautiful or something. And, sure, they are too, fine. But in this deeper kind of way of like what's really beautiful. And so, okay. So that's Sabi. Sabi is about how things are beautiful in their deterioration also, which deteriorate is kind of a strong word. It kind of, I mean, the way we think about it, usually it's like that means bad. That means bad. We don't want things to deteriorate. But Wabi Sabi, putting these together, it's like this idea that everything has its natural process over time. And that that's perfect and that that's beautiful on both sides, not only when the flower is in full bloom. That's not like the only thing that's beautiful, but that like you can see the beauty in the bud that hasn't bloomed yet. And to see the beauty in the flowers that are wilting too, that they still have so much beauty in them. And aside from the flowers, okay, bringing it back to us, it's like we are all in this ongoing process. And okay, we're not babies. Unless you are a baby listening to this, then, you know, hi. But no. I'm going to assume we are not babies. You know, maybe you feel like you're more on the deteriorating side of things. But even if you're, you know, like a whole fully grown adult, you've still got the wabi parts too. You've still got your parts that are growing into their potential in any moment. You know, we have both of these sides that we are always changing. We are always growing into new aspects of who we are as other aspects of who we were fall away. It's always happening with us, always. It's an ongoing process that you're in right now and that you'll continue to go through for your whole life. And not just you, obviously, it's not just you listening to this, dear listener. It is everyone and everything is going through this all the time. And so part of what I really want to share as we talk about this is that like it's really about loving yourself through these changes, through this process. Like knowing, like, you know, like how I said the caretakers look at the baby, the toddler who's learning to walk. And they have so much love for it. They're not thinking like, can this kid learn to walk already? Come on. Like, no. They're like appreciating each step, you know, to those caregivers of that baby. They see each step as like the most beautiful sight that they've seen, you know, like they just so love seeing these like wobbly little steps. It's like, can you do that for yourself? Can you do that for yourself with whatever new thing you're doing? Whether that's like, you know, a yoga practice. Can you like give yourself so much love as you see yourself attempting to do the stretch and maybe not actually touching your toes yet, but can you like just love that you're making the effort and like seeing that you're in this process of seeing like the perfection in what is, seeing that there's the potential for you to keep growing, and that at the same time part of you is dying to who you used to be. Like as we start new things, there are other things that we get out of practice with too. And you know that's just like more in its wilting phase. We are always in these kinds of processes of like, you know, growing and like decaying. That's happening in so many levels within us. And it's like, okay, the thing about it, and stick with me because I'm gonna go into this because I know that saying this could be interpreted in a lot of ways, but it's like recognizing that this process is perfect, that it's all happening, that you don't want to try to force things to happen faster, and you don't want to try to cling on to what was either. That it's like accepting that this is just unfolding perfectly. And okay, so as I say that it's perfect, part of me is like, hang on, hang on, hang on. Can't just say things are perfect. No, things aren't perfect. Things are a mess. You can't say it's perfect. What? But it's not like, please, please hear me on this. I'm not saying that that means things are perfect how they are. So that means we shouldn't change anything. We should just leave things how they are because they're perfect. So let's not mess with that. No. No, 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 no. Not that's not the thing that I am saying. What what I'm trying to say is that it's like each each step is like part of how the whole journey unfolds, and there's like a perfection in that just can't be rushed or forced, like with the apple that's not ripe yet. You can't make it ripe faster. Or I don't know, aren't there, I think there's some things that you can do to like make things like ripen like a little bit faster, like if you put it in a brown bag or something like that. But you can't like make it happen like instantly. I don't think that we have the technology to do that. There's still this kind of like time process that that has to unfold. So, huh, okay. There's so much else that I wanted to talk about today, but it's already been like an hour of this. Just having way too much fun with talking about this with you. So this is gonna have to be a multiple episode affair, I guess. Yeah, no, we're still gonna talk about like impermanence because Wabi Sabi like really connects to that, to how things change and how that affects us emotionally. And I love Wabi Sabi as a certain way to shift our perspective about impermanence and how things are changing and how we can relate to that. But okay, we are going to start wrapping this up because this has already been like almost an hour. It's amazing. It's just so easy for me to keep talking about this stuff. That's why I wanted to do a podcast. I was like, come on, let's just talk about it. But okay, okay. Coming back to Wabi Sabi for a couple more minutes here. A few main characteristics of it that I want to leave with you are that nothing is finished. Nothing is ever finished all the way. Everything keeps keeps going in some way or another. So nothing is finished. Nothing is perfect, which I think that connects to like the idea that nothing is finished, like nothing is nothing is just perfect. Everything is going through It's process. And there's like a perfection in that, but nothing is just like, okay, and done. Like that's just not how it is with anything. And that's what makes it beautiful. So it's like that's a way that we can relate to impermanence, that nothing lasts. Like instead of being bummed out about that, because I mean, really, it's the ultimate bummer that nothing lasts. Like, damn. It's just like, wow, that it really fucking sucks. About so, like, I mean, it's to say the least. To say the least. It's like, that's why we suffer, because things don't last. But it's like by taking this Wabi Sabi perspective, it helps to embrace what is happening in the moment, the way that things are right now, which doesn't, again, I want to emphasize that doesn't mean, oh, you embrace how things are right now so you don't try to change anything or you don't try to like take action in the world because you're just like, la la, everything's perfect. No, but from this place of seeing where things are in their process, it can help you take action from a place of more wisdom, of what can unfold from here, of what possibilities there are from here. Um, yeah, okay. Got some more notes about flowers. We already talked about flowers a lot. Um, I think, yeah, no, I have so many more notes, but this is just gonna have to be another episode. It's so funny. I thought when I was looking at my notes, I thought I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna have much more than like 15 minutes. This much just might be a shorter episode because it seems like I don't have that much to say, but oh my gosh, once I get talking, can really really just keep going with it. Oh, but something else that I wanted to say, and as we keep going with this podcast, you'll probably, something that you'll get to know about me is I love to say that I'm wrapping up and then go off on a whole nother tangent. So that's what's about to happen right now is I was talking about all this about Wabi Sabi, about like seeing the perfection in what seems like it's not perfect. And I want to tie that back to Butch Yoga itself, like Butch Yoga as a thing that it's felt like such a learning process the whole way for me. And like recognizing that that's also been perfect. That even all the stuff that I have felt like it's been awkward or I could have tried to like set that up better for you or like yeah, just structured things differently or whatever. It's like I can see that that's all just been part of the process along the way. That's just part of how things go. Like, of course, from the beginning, I wasn't gonna like be like, hey, here's this totally perfect program for all of you. Like, no, kind of, but like also no, but like in a very Wabi Sabi kind of way of trying different things and learning, learning along the way, growing in awareness of, what you want and need and like are asking for from this space, and also how I can best deliver that. And it's it's like it's been so interesting. It's been so interesting. Like we've had many different classes. We've had different like community classes that are kind of I guess what you might think of as more like normal yoga classes that are about an hour where we do some movement and like a little relaxation at the end. And then we've also had some programs where it was not just like a one-time class, but like a 3-month program with lectures and different practice sessions and so much more material brought together. And it's like each one of those groups has been so perfect in its own way. It's like so amazing to reflect on that, even as I can see ways that I could learn more, and could be doing things better. But knowing that like each one of those was its own like little perfect unit along the way to be like working towards our goals here, which like what are our goals? Um I'll say some goals. These aren't, and I'll say these aren't like these are the official goals of Butch Yoga, but like these are just, some ideas of things that I'm working towards, of what I've heard from you, of like what you want also, that like we want to build more connection to our bodies. Of, at the beginning of this episode I was talking about how important it is to listen to your body. And that's a kind of relationship that you build, this connection that you have to your body, that you build that connection by practicing listening and taking action based on what you hear, or not taking action and like letting yourself rest. I think letting yourself rest is a certain kind of action in its own way. And also building butch community. Oh my God, that is just one of my favorite things to get to do. It is so beautiful to get to be in a space where like everybody's butch. Or, like maybe not everyone fully identifies as butch themselves. Maybe not everybody's like, I am a butch person, or I am a butch, whatever. Like, no. Just just identifying with butchness in a general kind of sense. Like, I love that we have that space and fluidity, an ability to like meet each other here in that energy and to feel a sense of community. It's been so rare for me in my life to be in those kinds of spaces. And that's part of why I wanted to create this space so that we could have it together, even like virtually. I feel like you got to be in like kind of a big city or something to get a good butch meetup, if you even have that. Like I know there's Butch Monthly in New York, And LA, they have a Butch monthly meetup out there, and there's a couple other Butch meetups, but it's just it's so awesome to get to have this space, and that since it's mostly virtual, we might have a couple in-person classes here and there throughout the year, but we'll see. But mostly virtual, so you can tune in from anywhere, and it is so cool to get to connect with butches from all over the world, all over the world. I think probably mostly North American based, but there's been people tuning in from South America, Europe, like over Pacific areas, just so many places, so many places. I don't even have like a whole list of everywhere, but like I know there's been people coming in from all over, and it's so fucking special. It's so fucking special to get to be in a space together. And not just to be in any space together, but to be in a space where we're thinking about these ideas, where we're thinking about like who we are in deeper ways and connecting with our bodies, connecting with ourselves in these deeper ways that it's like, it's just so special. It's amazing. I love it so much. And talking about like going deeper, it's like another goal that I want to mention is connecting to a sense of meaning in your life. Like that's one that I know can be really hard. Like, what does that even mean? Connecting to a sense of meaning in your life. I can't tell you. I might try in another episode. We are already going long on this one, so I'm not going to start talking about what does it mean to like have a sense of meaning in your life. But I want to leave you with that to like reflect on like what does that mean to you? What what does it all mean? What's it all about? Like what like do you think about that? Like maybe like when you get like stoned with your friends and you get into like deep conversations, you like talk about like like what's the meaning of all this? What the hell are we even doing here? What's the point? Like that's I think it's so important for us to have like space where we can think about those kinds of questions and maybe not even get answers, but just to hold the questions and to have space to do that with each other. That's not like um I feel like many of the spaces in society where those questions are approached aren't necessarily the most queer friendly, unfortunately. Like different like spiritual spaces aren't aren't usually so open to queer people, which is fucking tragic. I mean, oh my gosh, there's just so much to say about that, but if you like feel that way, if you feel alienated from spiritual spaces that you like grew up around, or even if you weren't like raised with a particular institution, just the general vibes that you get from those, it's not great. There are exceptions. I don't want to say there aren't exceptions. There can be some really beautiful queer, affirming, welcoming churches, and I think that's so important and so amazing. And if you're part of a community like that, I am so happy for you. And if you don't know of a community like that, like, hey, welcome. Welcome. You are welcome here to explore these questions, these ideas, to think about what it means for you. Yeah, and I see that as like a certain kind of self-care of thinking about like what really matters to you. Like it's not self-care is not just about like doing a little like washing your face skincare kind of thing, whatever. Um that's good too. Do that stuff too. That's good, but there's so many levels of self-care and ways of committing to yourself, to taking care of yourself at all the levels, not just the skincare level. That's good too. Do that. That's a nice way to take care of yourself, but connecting with the deeper parts of yourself too that also want care and attention and love and support, like how can we care for ourselves in those ways? And that part of what I think about as what's important in self-care is that you feel seen. And I said that self-care, but it goes beyond the self. Like to feel seen, you can do that for yourself to a certain extent, but it takes others. It takes others to do that. We are not in a vacuum. We are here all together, and it's important to feel witnessed and not just feel like people are looking at you, but to feel like they're really seeing you for who you are, for who you know yourself to be. And that's also one of my goals for this space, that we create this space to not just like not just stretch together or talk about these ideas, but to have space to really see each other and to feel seen. Like, wow, no, really, like, thank you for seeing me as I do this, as I, talk about these ideas, as I help to like facilitate this space. Like, thank you for seeing me for who I am. That, like I'm just being me, and yeah, I feel like you see that, and thank you. And like I want to see you too. I want to be together in community where, we can share this energy. And so with that, I want to share that Butch Yoga is starting a new a new thing. A new thing. I was going to say program. I guess it's kind of a program. Program's a funny word, but let's we can call it a thing. I'm like, "Oh my god, are we going to soft launch it here?" Yeah, I think we're launching it. I think we're launching it. I haven't talked about it yet. So this is the first official announcement. It's happening. Butch Yoga is going to be starting a new thing called the Butch Care Club. Butch Care Club. Care like self-care, community care. Um Butch Care Club. It's going to be like a little kind of thing that you can join to come to Butch yoga classes. We're going to have meetups where we can just talk, have space to share about like what's going on with you, to hear others in the community. We're going to have different like kinds of like rituals, like virtual rituals to mark the different seasons that happen. That was an idea I had, and asked y'all in the Instagram stories, like in a poll. I was like, "Do you want this?" And aside from just yoga classes, the next highest like response that I got from people was that yes, you do want these seasonal rituals, which I so get that. I want it too. I want to have space to come together to like mark the time, to set intentions, to yeah, just meet together to like acknowledge that like hey, something's happening. And like right now, it's we are right at the spring equinox time, which it's a very exciting time. Or if you're in the southern hemisphere, I guess it's fall equinox. But anyway, it's the equinox. It's the equinox wherever you are, and it's a special moment in the year in how the earth spins around the sun. Like that's cool. You know, let's do something a little special for that. Um, so we are going to be doing a special event for the spring equinox, although it's going to be a little later because I, still had to recover. So I've just been starting to plan it out. But that's going to be in a couple weeks, like maybe like 2 or 3 weeks from now. It'll still be in spring. It'll be in spring that we're going to do a special little get together to celebrate springtime or fall if you're in the southern hemisphere, just equinox transition time. We're going to be doing that. So okay, I told you Butch Care Club, that's going to be the new thing from Butch Yoga, and a way that you can get involved and like have a regular yoga practice that feels good for you. I hope, like really what we do is it's there's an emphasis on doing movements that are simple. I don't want to say easy because, that's questionable of how easy it is, but they're simple. They're not we're not doing like more like I want to say like advanced moves, like that it's stuff that you can be a beginner and get into. So because I want to offer that. I want to offer this space for y'all. It's so, that's like part of what Butch Yoga is about creating this space to come together as people who identify with butchness and of any gender identity, by the way. I just want to throw that out that people of all gender identities who identify with butchness are welcome here. So if you're like, "Oh, I don't know if this is for me." If you identify with butchness, yeah, it's for you. Like that's cool, and you don't need to be like, "I am a butch." Like, no, that's okay. It took me a long time before I was like, "Yeah, I'm a butch." Like, but even now, I'm kind of like, am I? Like, so it's okay if you're kind of like, I feel kind of like butch adjacent, maybe. Like, no, it's also for you. Um, or if you like are really questioning it, you can send me a message and we can like talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it with you if you have any questions about like feeling welcome in the space, because I want you to feel confident, to feel good when you show up there. So, all right. you are probably going to be seeing more about Butch Care Club on Instagram, or I'm going to be talking about it more in emails. Um, and I'll be talking about it more here too on this podcast about what will be going on there. And yeah, I'm so excited to tell you more about it. It's like still formulating. It's still very wabi. It's like it's like that fruit that is not quite ripe yet, but it's getting there, you know? Like I can see that it's all it's all happening perfectly. Like it's all unfolding with time and yeah, just like continuing to show up to that and like watering the tree to make sure that the fruit does ripen and that yeah, we can have some nice like Butch Yoga fruit here together very soon. So, yeah, watch out for that. I'll be sharing more about it, but I'm very excited to get to tell you about it now. Like it's going to be so cool. I'm yeah, just I've really missed having classes with y'all. So I am really looking forward to getting back into it and like trying out this new thing together. So, okay, as we wrap up here, I just want to bring us back to this idea of wabi sabi, of allowing yourself and like things in your life to be as they are in this moment, however they are. Like knowing that it's going to change, but that whatever's going on right now, that's just like you being in your process and that's perfect and that it's all unfolding. And so be patient with yourself as you grow into new things. And be so loving with yourself as like old parts of who you were like fall away. Like make sure to love that too. And yeah, I guess I guess that's about it for this episode. Um, thank you so much for coming back, tuning back in for this Butch Yoga podcast. Wow, still got so much more to say. Still got so much more to say about Wabi Sabi. I'm like, are we just gonna have to come back to Wabi Sabi next time? Maybe, maybe, but let's see. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I think we're gonna come back to Wabi Sabi next time, but also got some more ideas too to add in there. And yeah, it's so good to get to share this with you. I like love getting to talk about this. I hope that yeah, you found this idea like meaningful and can see how to apply it in your life and that it can yeah, expand your perspective of what's going on, of what beauty is, of what perfection is and can be. That yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up for real. I think I said like 20 minutes ago. No, it was like 30 minutes ago that I was like, okay, we're gonna wrap it up for real. but but yeah, it's I also told you that I love to do a fake out and say that I'm wrapping up, but then just keep going on. So that's part of my wabi sabi nature of how I do things. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Just quick reminder that if you want to keep up with Butch Yoga aside from the podcast, you can sign up for the email list. You can find the link for that in the little Instagram link in bio. Um, and follow us on Instagram and YouTube. Also, if you just search for Butch Yoga on YouTube, you should see me there. And maybe a bulldog doing yoga. I think if you search for Butch Yoga, there's like a bulldog named Butch who does yoga, and you can see him do a little downward dog. So, but that's not me. That's a different thing. But no, if you search Butch Yoga on YouTube, you will see me. So make sure to follow along there, like and subscribe, and all of that. And yeah, okay, we did it. Gonna wrap it up now, but it's been so good. I'm so happy to be back, and I'm excited to keep doing this. Okay, bye.